Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Nothing says frame rate like a monkey riding a pig. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that rates the frames. I'm Tom Merritt. Who are you again? We couldn't hear you. We can't. What is wrong with? We're playing the music, right?
Yeah, I was playing the music.
We were playing the music. We couldn't hear you at all.
That's all right. You know, Skype does that ducking thing where it drops me out. Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, and I'm a happy, happy man thanks to that little video, baby monkey riding backwards on a pig. That's all I ask for.
By the way, this is not an SFW, even though you may have seen that clever advertisement for Brian's other show.
The only thing that would be worse than me putting the wrong lower third would be if we had our first episode of Frame Rate and never bothered to explain what the show was to anybody watching at home.
It's called Frame Rate. We rate frames.
See, that makes sense to you and me because we're idiots. Apparently,
we did 12 episodes in beta.
You have to say, this is a show where we give reviews and commentary on video, whether it be viral video, television, or movies. The big screen to the small screen.
You may or may not be right. I'm not going to admit that right now. But, you know, there is a literary device where you just kind of you jump in the middle of the action, and it engages the reader or the viewer because they're trying to figure out what's going on. I think that's what we were doing.
What we're going to do is on our 4th episode, we're going to snap back to you and I as eighth graders. Like in the future, we will create a show where we rate frames. And we're like, what does that mean? We're like, I don't even know.
I haven't even met you yet. But I know we're going to do it, man.
What did you watch when you were in 8th grade? What was the show that you dug most?
Let's see. Yeah, let me think. 8th grade would have been around 1982 for me. So MASH. I was a huge fan of MASH.
I think for me it was Night Court, watching the Harry Anderson.
Oh yeah, I was a big fan of the Night Court as well. I was a Cheers fan. MASH, I not only watched new, although actually by 82 it was off, but I watched after the 10:30 news.
Okay, so for a second I thought you were going to say you watched after MASH.
I'm sorry, after the 10 o'clock news. I also did watch after MASH, but
did you really?
Yeah, we'll save that for the confessional later.
I was too young to know what the big deal with Aftermash was, but I understood that, like, oh, this is supposed to be good if you knew some other show. But I was too young.
See, I had watched every single episode of MASH, and this was before you could go onto a Hulu or something, right? Like, I had to watch them by staying up and waiting for the 10 o'clock news to be over, and Larry Connor from Channel 2 go, coming up next, MASH.
Yes, yes. So who would win in a fight, Airwolf or Knight Rider?
Knight Rider.
Yes.
Yes.
Because even though you would think Airwolf, well, with the fact with the air superiority and the missiles and stuff.
Yeah, Knight Rider's got the brains.
They would find a way to hit a jump and hit the turbo boost and run straight smack down into Airwolf.
Knight Rider, you have to remember, it's not about David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff is the meat in Knight Rider. The car, Kit, is the MacGyver of robotic cars. Can make anything happen.
Did the actor who played Kit, tell me he has developed a voice package for like a TomTom GPS or something. Tell me that.
Yeah.
that this.
Okay, then here we go. Brian, did you know that the actor who played Kid has developed a voice package for GPS devices?
Get out of town. Is that true? Tell
It
me
actually is true.
Okay, good. I was a little bit worried there for a second.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When you were in 8th grade, what were you watching?
Oh no! When I was in 8th grade, it had to be. It was Night Court, and right around that time was it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and DuckTales after school each day, and
He-Man. He-Man was on for me.
No. He-Man was back when I was in 3rd grade, but I watched the He-Man, G.I. Joe, Voltron. Those were back in the day after school.
That's what I used to watch those after school as well.
Boy, I shudder to think about how much inappropriate stuff I watched on HBO back when I was a kid. When I was in 3rd grade, like I look back on it, I was like, did I really watch a movie about Jekyll and Hyde where they do a ton of cocaine? And I guess, and like apparently, I think it was called Jekyll and Hyde Together Again. I was just like, how on earth did that happen? And in a weird way, I was thankful for our new society of online everything available, because at least everything has ratings on it now.
I was a customer of Cablevision of Greenville in the early days, and when they first gave us cable, you'd either get 13 channels on your television, or if you paid for the extra package, they gave you this brown box that was so 70s looking, and it had switch depressions for all the channels above channel 13. So it was like 14, 15, all the way up to like, I think, 23. And that's how you got the extra channels. And on there were HBO and Cinemax, but they were scrambled unless you paid for it. My parents paid for HBO, but they wouldn't pay for Cinemax. So I remember I watched 2 movies on Cinemax because they just happened, the scrambling that day just happened to not be so bad. I could kind of make out. Like, it was double image, everybody, and they were kind of doing this. But I could still watch the movie. I watched The Shining and Strange Brew that way.
Oh, I loved Strange Brew. I still love Strange Brew. There are entire chunks of that movie I could quote verbatim. Oh, I gotta take a leak so bad I could taste it.
That was the part where the thing started to really get squiggly, and I couldn't tell what was going on. I kind of could tell what was going on from the audio, but I was like, oh man, where is he? Is he parked? What is he up on top? What are they showing? It got all squiggly again.
So I know that there's a bunch of different cable distributors and a bunch of different cable systems back in the early 80s, but there was only one channel that I think most people at that age were interested in. For me, it was channel 18. It didn't quite come in, but maybe if you adjust the tuning, you could see grainy black and white images. You know what I'm talking about?
We didn't have a channel 18 in Cablevision in Greenville. In fact, Cinemax was on channel 18.
Well, okay, but did they have a Playboy channel? Did you ever try to tune in any of that stuff?
No. Cinemax was as racy as it got.
It gets pretty racy. I ran across it a couple of years ago. I was just like, well, hello. They weren't doing that when I was a kid. I finally became an old man, and I could be like, I wish we had Skinamax shows like this before.
Was it a standard that 18 was the Playboy channel? Because it was that way in Boise, too.
It was?
Yeah, totally. It was 18. That's just weird.
That says you have to be 18 to watch.
So you want to talk about the big story? I love your pick for the big story.
Yeah, it kind of fits in what we were just talking about. Time for the big story. Insert fan-made intro here. The big story today is cutting the cord. Last week, Logitech Review Box and the Boxy Box all started shipping. You can start buying them this week. And you can now have an unlimited number of options for figuring out how to get internet television onto your regular television without having to pay for cable. Are any of them any good? We have no idea. You know, Veronica Belmont is doing a spreadsheet to keep track of all these things.
There are so many of them, and you're spoiled for choice now. It's actually a problem if you want to pick the one that's right for you. I was ahead of my time. I tried to make this leap 2 years ago, and the technology wasn't there. We moved into a new house, and I thought, well, you know what will be great? I'll just get the smallest, most basic cable for the kids so they can watch their Nickelodeons and their Cartoon Networks or whatever, and everything we watch will download onto our computer or we'll put onto an Apple TV. And that was pretty much the only consumer box top that you had. You had Roku or Apple TV. We went with Apple TV. Mistake, it turns out, because it was essentially, just a platform to buy all of the iTunes stuff in standard definition. But now there are so many different options. I don't know where to go, but I'll tell you, seeing the actual boxy box at your place, I was so amazed at how small and awesome it was. I couldn't believe it.
When you look at it, you kind of think it might be big. And it's got that off-kilter design, so you're like, oh, is it really going to fit in my thing? It's like the size of my fist. It's not, well, a big fist. It's like my hand wrapped around my fist.
Yeah, you could certainly wrap your hands all the way around it with two hands, right? You could hold it inside of two hands together. So it's very small, but I haven't played with the interface or anything. I loved the remote, was blown away at the remote. The way it was it looked like an Apple TV, super simple remote on one side. You flip it over and you have a full keyboard to type everything in. It was a very elegant solution, but now it's that game where you got to create that matrix of, well, you do get this service, you don't get that service, you can do this pay-per-view, you can't do this definition. How does the Boxy rate in those categories?
Well, they say they're getting Hulu Plus. We don't know when. These things with Hulu often drag on much longer than they should. So I kind of wouldn't count on it, even though they're supposed to get it. They say they're getting Netflix. That might happen sooner than Hulu, but they still haven't added it yet. So right now they're kind of behind. When you actually turn it on, it's like, oh, I've got a wealth of options. Okay, what do I got here? I have got
Nothing.
No, I don't have YouTube. I've got Mediafire. Oh, I've got Twit app. I've got some other stuff.
You can't even do YouTube on Boxy?
You can, but there's not a YouTube app. It's a different. I can't remember how you go about.
You just have to go onto the website and watch it the way you would do using the built-in browser.
Oh, no. There is a YouTube app. Somebody's telling me. I must have missed it. But I'm getting confused with all these different boxes, sadly, because that is the problem. They all have different services, and there isn't a service to give you everything you want, right? And when you say, like, can you evaluate which box should I get? You can't even start with that question because we haven't figured out the service side of it yet. When you sign up for cable TV, granted, you probably only have one choice. You might have two or three depending on where you live, but you have limited choices. But you do know that when you sign up with cable TV, you're going to get almost everything. You're going to get CNN. You're going to get ESPN. The differences come down to the more niche channels like, oh, well, does this one have BBC America or does this one have BBC and American HD? You know, but most of the big channels are there. That is not true with web services yet. Hulu doesn't have everything. Netflix doesn't have everything. There's not one that you can get that'll get you most of the way there. So then you add on top of that, well, which boxes get what services? Now it's like, well, it's already, and now it's more complicated because I can't just pick one service. So I can't just go with the box that has that service. I have to think about, well, which box can get which services. You know the box that gets all of them?
I know which box gets all of them. The PC with a BitTorrent connection.
Exactly.
And sadly, that's what gets everything. And unfortunately, it costs nothing. And it's like, I want to cut the cord. I want this service to work. And I would pay the full cost for my complete menu of cable shows. And I would pay an additional $20 to $30 a month premium for the ability to have a super simple, beautiful Apple TV style interface to make available. And here's the crazy part. I don't even mind if there's commercials in there. As long as I could get to anything I want and navigate beautifully and efficiently and watch it in my living room, I will pay an awful lot for that. But there's nothing that offers that. And the closest thing that does offer it happens to be piracy. And it kills me because I want to see this stuff legitimized, and they're not doing it.
And we've talked before on the beta episodes of Frame Rate about why that is, but it's essentially the old-fashioned windowing system for rights. It's different for TV than it is for movie, but the concept is the same, which is when I release something, let's stick with movies because that's a little more easy to explain. When a movie is released, the theater has the right for the first 90 days plus. Then it goes to, I think, like airplanes and hotels and certain pay-per-view. And then it goes to on-demand. And when I say it goes to that, it doesn't mean it leaves the theater and then it goes into this pay-per-view and nobody else can have it. And then it leaves the airplane and pay-per-view and it goes to the movie channels and nobody else. Then it's off pay-per-view and nobody else can have it. And that's why you see things appear on Netflix and then disappear because they're trying to play in this windowing system where they're like, okay, we're going to get the rights to that when Starz gets it for a movie channel. But then once Starz lets go of it and it goes to broadcast TV, well, then we lose it. We can't show it anymore. And the only way you can watch it is with commercials.
In fact, it's a problem because like with the Star stuff on Netflix, there are times like they don't want the advertisers to say, oh, make sure to check out this movie live instant streaming on Netflix, because they don't want to advertise it that way, because they don't know from month to month when it's going to be available. Or it's like, if you go out like, hey, everyone, go see The Big Lebowski. It's available for instant streaming on Netflix. Then they sign up for the service, and then it's there one week and then gone the next. And I tell you, I want them to fix this problem. And I act like it's just an easy thing. I wave my hand. I'm like, hey, just fix it. But man, are there fantastic revenue opportunities if they could just get this all figured out. Because you remember, we hung out on Sunday night, and the next day I got on a plane and I went back home to Austin. So I'm stuck on this plane. I got to tell you, I wanted so bad Sunday night to go see the new movie Cool It with Bjorn Lomborg, about his interesting take on
the documentary on skeptical environmentalists.
Yes, exactly. But the problem is I didn't have the right block of time to go see the movie when I was physically near the movie theater. However, the next day I had 6 hours of nothing as I'm on planes, and I started to think, I was like, if I went to go see it at the movie theater, I would have paid maybe $7 for a matinee, $10 for an evening show. What would I have paid for the ability to watch it on my iPad on the airplane? It's like, man, I would have easily paid $30 just for a one-time view, because I've gotten so busy now that I want to see this movie on my terms. And if they could just figure it out, I think there's a tremendous revenue opportunity to be made. It's
easy to kind of throw stones and say like, these guys just don't get it. If they just do this, there are some people in the industry who are like that. They just don't get it. But frankly, most of them do. They've seen the music industry dragged over the coals for this. They know what they need to do. But even if every single person in the movie and TV industry decided, this is what we want to do, we want to start putting all of our TV and movies in Hulu or Netflix or whatever,
right?
Getting that done is intensely complicated because of the current agreements and restrictions that you have. It's, even if they had that will and they said, okay, we're going to put this movie out straight to Netflix, and then all of a sudden the theater owners go, no, you're not. You have an agreement with us. And we'll stop showing your movies if you violate that. Okay, well, we'll give you your 90-day window. But then after 90 days, we're going to go straight to Netflix with it. And then the pay-per-view people go, well, that's fine, but you're giving up, the $5 million you would have got from us. Oh, okay, well, we still want that $5 million, even though we know in the long term we can make it up. But, if we give it away right away, then we have this dip in revenue for short term. So we got to take that $5 million. But then... And that's where the problem is trying to figure out how to get yourself out of this finger trap that you're in.
Gordian knot of all the different tendrils that interact with every other tendril. It reminds me of the bureaucracy that you see in The Wire or just anything. It's like it's too difficult to extract or for example, Ticketmaster. It's like we keep trying to defeat Ticketmaster, but there are too many things that it's tied into that affect other things to where, Pearl Jam just spent a decade trying to just go on tour without dealing with Ticketmaster and eventually gave up. And it's these systems that, I mean, sadly, it's the piracy has to act as a wake-up call to these people in order to slap them around and say, look, you've got to do something.
Oh, I think they're awake. I think that's the problem. They're awake and they just don't know how to extricate themselves gracefully. And then you've got all levels of wakefulness. And the people who are more in charge in the bigger offices are a little sleepier than the people lower down. The Hulu people are fully awake. Those guys are sitting there going, we really need to, just put the videos on there and take the advertising money instead. The more TV shows we put on the Hulu, the more we can sell, and the more we sell, the higher rates we can charge, and we really need to get going with this. And the TV networks are like, yeah, right. Yeah, we wanted to crush Hulu, but I think we still have some other things we got to do over here. So,
right. No, they got a million things going on. And keep in mind that I believe last time I read an article on it, the CPMs, the cost per thousand views on Hulu were actually better as far as pricing goes for the content providers than the actual primetime. Because actual primetime, now the difference is that primetime you can rely on millions of views.
Exactly. So and you can't give that up right away.
Exactly. So it's difficult for them to give it up, but I'm hoping, because certainly as far as a return on investment, the experience you get with Hulu for targeted advertisements where that somebody is not getting up to leave the room. You have these interactive elements. They're targeted to what people are interested in. Obviously, it should be a better return on investment for advertisers, but they just don't have the big numbers to entice people to get all the way behind it. And I'm hopeful that that'll change over time.
Yeah, it is changing. It's slowly changing. Hulu Plus is like a tiny step down that road. So we have to wait for them to figure that out, right? While they're figuring that out, we've got lots of options to at least get partway there. And a lot of people can live with these options. They're like, yeah, okay, so I don't get every single thing, whatever. One of those options, as we said, is piracy with a computer. That gives you everything you want. Except the problem is when a show is not popular anymore, it's much slower to download on BitTorrent. Yes. Because you don't have as many people seeding and tracking it. You also have the issue of you have to be very careful where you download and what you download. Yes. And not just because you're going to get a virus or get something dangerous. That's true. That's possible. But also because, I got the copy of this movie, but it's a really bad copy. It's one of those ones that was shot with a video camera in the movie theater instead of an actual print. I got to go find this.
I've had the experience of wanting to see a movie and somebody saying, well, I've got this bootleg, and he throws it on at the party. And I watched the thing, and I decide it's a crappy movie, and I don't realize that the movie was great, but just the copy I was watching was a terrible bootleg that corrupted my experience of it. And so the other thing, though, and this is a flip side with piracy as well. Not only do you have the problem of finding necessarily everything, but in a weird way, some things piracy does much better than other options. For example, watching The Wire, I wish that I could, if I were to download a rip of the DVD, then I would have the subtitles, which I think are very important there, because culturally you don't know how much of it is like, well, I think he said this, and it matters because you don't know, did I mishear it, or is this some kind of street lingo that I'm not familiar with? It really made a big difference to watch it with subtitles to somebody like me who wants to make sure he's understanding everything that's happening, and that's not even an option on iTunes.
So we got positives and negatives to piracy, but it's not, in fact, the 100% solution, which is why there's a window for people to steal away its market share. It's why people will pay for something, to be like, you know what, I've got the peace of mind that I'm going to get it when I ask for it in exactly the quality that I want. And then home theater PCs interfaces are not perfect. I mean, yeah, they can technically do everything, but some of the things are available by remote and some aren't. Right? So, that 10-foot interface is not necessarily designed to do all the things in the browser, even though the browser can do them. So that's why you have the boxies. That's why you have the Logitech reviews. And
if I was going to, if I was going to recommend somebody cut the cord and they were tech savvy, I would say throw a PC into your living room. And I haven't seen anything to supplant that just yet, except for we all have wives and girlfriends and fathers and mothers and in-laws who come over and they just get frustrated and they say, I just want to watch TV. And you're like, well, it's not that simple anymore, kiddo. You gotta, what do you want to watch? He's like, well, what's on? Well, how about the sum total of all video and the entire creation of history is available. That's what's on right now. And people just break down. So I don't know.
I think right now, television still wins. Like cable television still wins with a DVR. But if you're like, you know what, I'm not paying for that anymore. It's too overpriced. I don't like what they're doing. I don't like the lack of choice, and I can get by with some of those things. What should I pick? I'm going to cut the cord. I think this is why you haven't seen people. But if you're out there saying I'm going to, I would say, and tell me what you think about this, Brian, the Roku is my top choice right now.
I have not gotten hands-on with the devices as much as you have. Obviously, you do a lot of other tech review shows, so you get hands-on with all these things. I just do my research. I bought the Apple TV
Actually, I get my hands on them because I spend my money on them.
Well, okay. Well, no,
I just go and buy them.
You have to review.
I would like to sound like I were more professional and I had to review, but I can't stop myself.
You just want to. Okay. Well, see, for me, it's like I can't. It's difficult for me. I got burned by the Apple TV. I really, really thought it was going to be fantastic, and it really kind of broke my heart. And now it just has me. You know what? Screw it. Let's just watch. Yeah, and maybe I'm different because I have a giant 37-inch 1080p HD monitor in my office, and that's my primary monitor, so it's very easy for me to watch content that I download off of iTunes or watch Hulu or any of the streaming services on there. So I don't know. It's going to be it's a sticky situation. I'm just annoyed that it's even an issue.
I think the Roku is my choice because it's got the $59.79. It's like the Taco Bell value menu in like 1993. $59.79, $99 for the 3 models of Roku. So the 59 is standard def, 79 and 99 are high def, and the 99 has the faster Wi-Fi.
Or as I like to express it, 100 soft tacos, 100 bean burritos, or 100 chalupas.
Exactly. And so it's the cheapest of all of them. All it needs is an Ethernet connection, or with the more expensive two, you can do it over Wi-Fi, although I would still plug it in by Ethernet, frankly, because it's just more reliable if you can do it at all. And then you get Netflix. It's already on there. You get Major League Baseball. You get the National Hockey League. You get MediaFly. You get the Twit app. You get Revision 3. You get there's just a ton of apps that you can add all of these services. There's movie services on there. Hulu Plus is coming to Netflix. They already have the app thing up there, and it just says coming soon. But the indications are that the deal will be done by the end of the year, and it'll be delivered by the end of the year. So we're not 100% on that, but it looks like Roku is going to have the 2 majors, Netflix and Hulu, that cover the largest amount of content that you can get. And they have a couple of sports channels, and they're going to be adding more of those. So a lot of the things that you want are available. Now, you have to pay extra for them, but you're still paying less than you'd pay for a cable bill.
Well, and if we're going to play this game, most people actually own what I think is probably one of the best options, which we haven't discussed yet, is the Xbox 360 has obviously built-in Netflix. And if you don't have Netflix, you're a complete idiot and you're high on the crack, because it's such a good value for all of the instant streaming stuff. Don't ever bother to get
it has ESPN
media sent over to you, right? It's amazing. But if you get, is it Play On, or I can never remember if it's Play On or what was the other name that I confuse it with?
T-Versity?
What's that?
T-Versity, is that?
No. It's
or Play. You're probably thinking of Play On then.
Yeah. Play On is the one where it uses your PC in the other room, your desktop PC in the other room. So it opens up access.
Yeah, you can do Media Center Extender too.
Exactly. Anything that you download. I think it's a pretty good solution. If you're going to do your management from your office PC and you're going to decide, you're going to set everything up, there's an awful lot you could do with just your Xbox 360.
Yeah, and that's where the Boxy Box becomes a better option if you're like, okay, I'm willing to pay a couple $100. I don't need to have it be the cheapest. And I want to have access to some files in other parts of the house. Boxy can start to do that. They have USB ports on there, so you can just plug in a drive and you can play whatever's on that drive right off the Boxy Box.
Yes.
The Logitech Review has a nice ABC app. It has CNBC streaming live 24 hours. I found it to be a little buggy. A little more buggy. Boxy Box is a little buggy too. Actually, the thing that I recommend the Roku most is because it's dead simple. Up, down, left, right, select. Everything works. They've been banging on these things for a couple of years, so it works really well. Boxy every once in a while was a little laggy with me. Logitech Review had some big issues here and there with it. Although the remote works really well. The Logitech remote is fantastic on the Google TV. And what the Google TV does is it says, we know you're not going to dump your cable. So we're going to allow that content to go through the Google TV, and you can control it and search it there. So when you search for a show, we'll tell you whether it's on one of your apps, one of your services, or on your cable channel.
I hold out so much hope for Google TV as a platform to grow and mature and become dead simple and ubiquitous to where we all get it. And hopefully that'll happen. Somebody in the chat room said that I would find a lot of people who do not use Netflix. And let me explain, Netflix is not just for movies. In fact, there was a time leading up to the Lost finale when you could, using for what, $8 a month, $10 a month, opening up the Netflix streaming, you could watch the entire series of Lost from beginning all the way up to the last previous season, and all for free, or all included in your $10 a month fee. So it's not just movies. In fact, I think that's going to be the big showdown we're going to see is between Hulu Plus and Netflix as they all try to assert dominance by grabbing different properties that they keep exclusive from one another.
Yeah, and don't forget the Sony PS3, which has Hulu Plus as well, and a Blu-ray player in it. And Netflix now.
And just recently, and I tell you, I wasn't including the PS3 because you always had to put in that stupid drive every time.
Yeah, they got rid of that, so you can actually get Netflix as an app.
In fact, I may actually go buy a PS3 now because of that.
All right, let's move on to another big story.
Insert intro here.
25 minutes of the upcoming Tron Legacy movie leaked to the internet.
Yes.
Did you watch Brian Brushwood?
No. Well, okay. Somebody sent this to me, and I clicked on it to see if it was real because I didn't believe it's real. It just said 25 minutes of Tron.
Right. When you don't know what something is, it's a good idea to click on it, not...
That's how you find out. That's how you find out. It was a Vimeo link. It clearly, I recognize.
All right. You practice safe
about
link assessment protocols, it sounded like.
Right.
All right, good.
I did my due diligence of like, I don't know, let's see. And so I clicked on it, and I could watch maybe 30 seconds before I had to shut it down. It was obvious that this was a leaked video from an inside source, somebody working on the movie, because it started off with the scene with a descriptor on top, and it was obviously an iPhone or some kind of hand cam looking at the 3D footage. So that meant that you had it looked double blurred because you had the two images that only make sense if you have the polarized glasses. And so it was obvious that it was a real thing. And it was obvious that I'm really excited about this movie because it wasn't any moral conundrum that stopped me from looking at it. And to be honest, I'm the kind of attention whore who might even tweet out the link just because I would like the followers, but I couldn't do it because I didn't want that much spoilage. This isn't just another preview. This isn't just another trailer to suck you in. This was the actual movie, and I didn't want to take anything away. Now, having said that, I know that Justin Robert Young, my co-host on NSFW, he did watch it. And for me, I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to spoil anything. For him, he was not on the Tron train. He didn't expect a lot from it, but he watched it and walked away very excited about the movie. So for whatever that's worth, apparently it's a good thing.
Well, and this is the rub here, right? What is the benefit and disadvantage of this sort of thing? Like you say, you didn't want to spoil it. On the other hand, some people may say, 25 minutes, that's still not spoiling the whole movie. I'm not seeing the end. And it's, and it's still all messed up with the 3D stuff, so it's not like it's going to be when I sit in the theater and watch it. That's okay by me. The theater obviously doesn't want it out, but then again, it turned Justin Robert Young into a possible viewer, so they probably don't want him in the theater either. But if it were someone else who they did want in the theater, that might be a good thing.
So you have the two different sides of the issue. You have this 25 minutes, and we'll say there's probably some better example where there's only 7 minutes of leaked footage that just really gets you excited about it. For example, I remember they intentionally posted, I think, the first 7 to 10 minutes of the Serenity movie early on to try to drum up interest for the movie. On the other hand, you have the Wolverine scenario where the entire movie, an incomplete version with the effects not quite complete, the entire movie got released, and you got to think that somebody who watches it feels like, oh, I've experienced the whole movie. It's very unlikely that a lot of those people are going to go watch the movie again just to see the special effects put all the way in.
Although
it's mushy middle, where it's like one clearly damages it, one clearly increases interest, but then this one's just in the middle. It was hard for me to decide.
I think the damage is probably less than people think. I think when that Wolverine came out, my impression was a lot of people who downloaded it were so excited about Wolverine, they were going to go see it in the theater because they wanted to experience it big, but they still wanted to see it ahead of time. There were other people who were like, I'm never going to go to the theater to see this, so I'm just going to download and watch it here. And so you didn't lose anything. The question is, how many people actually downloaded that who would have gone to the theater and said, okay, I don't have to go to the theater now?
Right. Okay, well, I can't speak to now, but there was a time, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, when I wasn't such a upstanding citizen, and I have definitely seen some bootlegs in my time that totally inoculated me from wanting to bother to go see the actual movie. And I was left with a poor feeling about that movie because I saw this terrible telesync of the thing.
Yeah.
So I got to imagine there's some of that. And I went and saw the Wolverine movie, not having seen any of it in advance. I saw it in the theater, and the few parts of the movie that I actually did like weren't even in the bootleg version, because I did eventually take a look at the bootleg version. And it was just like, well, no wonder everyone gave it crap. If this is all you saw, it's like the one thing you go to a movie like that for is the spectacle. And if you don't get that spectacle, then of course you're going to think it's a terrible movie.
I think that eventually the only way to ensure that this doesn't happen is to put out the movie immediately upon its being done. And theaters are going to suffer.
I think I think you're crazy if you think that has a chance of happening. There is no.
Oh, it will. It will happen. Will it happen next year? Absolutely not. Will it happen the next 5 years? Probably not. Will it happen in 10 years? Maybe not.
To be
But
made. There's so much money to be made. With
the overwhelming pressure of the internet will eventually wear down this system. Once the people who are used to having the theaters be in charge get rid, then they start to compromise a little and make it a 30-day window, and they allow for a few promotional simultaneous releases. And eventually, over time, and I don't know how much time it takes, when movies are done, they go out. And you go to the theater to see them because you want to see them on the big screen. And they show in the theaters around the world at exactly the same time as you can download them at home. So you decide whether you want to pay for it at home or want to pay for it in the theater. And yeah, there'll probably be fewer theaters at that point. But the movie industry will be making plenty of money. They'll be making more money, and that's why it'll happen.
Well, there are two things I want to say about that. First of all, we're getting closer to that. It used to be the massive, massive delay between the American theatrical release and the international theatrical release for a lot of these movies. That window is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and we're seeing more and more simultaneous releases worldwide. Wow, did that not sound good? Second of all, on the Tron, we were talking last week about 3D and the proper use of 3D. Tron is one of those movies like Avatar that I think is very important that we watch in 3D, if for no other reason than it was magical to me watching the preview in the theater where all of the real life, quote unquote, real life stuff was all in 2D. And then all of a sudden you get this smash and you just enter this new world with the 3D. Oh my gosh. There are movies where the 3D experience is integral to your enjoyment of the movie, and I think Tron Legacy is going to be one of those that sneak attacks. I don't think people will realize how awesome it is to see it in 3D until they do. Whereas Avatar, we knew going into it, but this time it was I think it'll be a total surprise with Tron.
All right. Shall we move on to the film?
Our awesomely named
Those new listeners to Frame Rate should know that Film Found provides you the best in evaluations on films and movies, the kind that Tom just predicted would someday be shown right directly into your home.
Dateline 2010. Film Found takes the stage. What do you think, Ace Detect?
So Skyline was the big sci-fi movie out this weekend, and there is quite a bit of cognitive dissonance about it between the critics and the viewers. This is a movie where aliens come and they attack the Earth, and we're pretty much ants, and they don't give a damn about us, whether we resist or not. They're just trying to get us out of the way. It's not even personal, right? It's not a war. It's just getting rid of us. Rotten Tomatoes tomatometer, which takes all the critics into account, 15%.
But look at what the audience gave it. 75%? 15% versus 75%?
That's a huge swing.
I don't think I've ever seen a swing like that.
So this is 11,685 users versus 48 reviews from critics. But that's pretty unanimous on the critics. They pretty much are saying this is a piece of crap. And if you read the headlines from the reviews, they all said, Skyline, don't bother. Pay attention to the tagline, which is don't look and don't see it. Whereas obviously the audience went, you know what? I knew what I was getting into. I wanted to see some big ships blow some stuff up, and I went in the theater, and that's what I saw, and I liked it.
Did you see the movie? Did you see the Skyline?
I did not. You know what? I got talked into seeing Morning Glory, the show about the morning television shows, because I've worked in TV, I've worked in video, and so is my wife, and we're like, we're gonna like this. And this Rotten Tomatoes is saying 15% on Skyline. Let's go watch Morning Glory because we know that'll be funny.
There are certain things movies could do that are like a backdoor. It's like a cheat. Like the moment a movie comes out that's about magicians who are on tour doing something, I don't care what it is. I'm going to see that movie because that's almost a show about my workplace, my livelihood. And I got to imagine Morning Glory was that kind of backdoor for you, right?
Oh, yeah, and it was actually done well. I mean, there are definitely huge gaping holes in the plot, and there's problems with it, and it's a little bit of a romantic comedy, but it's got a great cast. It's got Harrison Ford in it, for goodness sake, playing a mean anchorman. And so if there are a lot of inside jokes to the industry and a lot of really funny stuff. We're like, oh my gosh, they got that damn right. It's just like working there. So it was fun. It was enjoyable, but it was not monsters coming from space and blowing things up, which I have a huge love for. But Rotten Tomatoes told me this isn't worth going. The users are telling me, you know what, Tom, maybe you should go see it tonight.
Tell me if you have the same illness I have, where I really want to see more movies and watch more television, but I'm so busy now that I just have absolutely no patience for anything that might be mediocre. Like, I don't want to waste my time going to see any kind of mediocrity. I want to know that if I'm clearing off a night, if I'm getting a babysitter, if I'm taking the missus, if we're going down to the Alamo Draft House right here in Austin, Texas, I got to know that this is going to be freaking amazing. And so as a result, man, it's like I'll have my excitement wilt super easily. Like, let's say a month ago, I saw the plot of Skyline. I'd read everything about it. And I'd be super excited. If I read a review that says 15%, I won't see it, man. And if I do see it, then I'll just be disappointed. I'll notice everything they harped on. And I really am the type of person who should not watch or listen to any reviews because it corrupts my viewing experience. I can't help but notice the things they tell me to watch for as it goes on.
I went through that phase. When I was working at Tech TV in the early days of CNET, I just was like, you know what? I'll go to movies every once in a while, and I'm going to watch 2 or 3 TV shows. I just don't have time to watch anything that's not any good. But lately, and I don't know, maybe it's because my schedule got more flexible, but I'm really busy. I'm like behind on a bunch of shows. I haven't watched Fringe in a couple of weeks, and I love that show. But
Right.
I went through a period where I'm like, oh, crap, I missed the first 2 seasons of Lost. I missed the first season of Battlestar Galactica. I don't want that to happen. So now I've gone the other way, and I start watching freaking Undercovers and The Event because I'm thinking, well, you know what? Maybe people are wrong. Maybe this will turn out to be the sneak hit.
You bought stock. You invested in those shows, and they ended up crashing. All that time and effort you put in to try and to dig that show went right down the tank.
And I didn't buy stock in the other shows, and then I ended up being behind at the water cooler.
Yeah, but you can buy them. You can enjoy them whole. The only time you get screwed by waiting is when it comes close to that finale time. When like, for example, Lost. If you don't know anything about Lost right now, count yourself lucky. Don't tell anyone you're watching Lost and just watch it. But if you were like 2 seasons into it and it was getting close to that giant series finale, you better catch up because the moment that happens, there's no way you're not going to turn on the TV and hear major spoilers all over the place.
Plus, I'm writing a novel because it's National Novel Writing Month.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And that's why you did it, because it's National Novel Writing Month.
It is. I've done it every year since like 2003. I haven't always finished. I've only finished once. But that takes time away from my TV watching and my movie going.
I know.
And my WoW playing.
Maybe we'll make a TV show about your novel that you finished.
Oh yeah,
out on Frame Rate.
I'll negotiate for the rights with you.
Done and done.
Speaking of television, let's move on into Tube Tops.
Tube Tops.
So what are you watching this week, Brian?
You know what? 2 shows. Probably no surprise to anyone who's been watching the beta, but now that we are finished with our black hole, we're actually at home, have some time to relax. I am all caught up on The Walking Dead, and I'm watching, savoring the last few episodes of The Wire, and I actually have enough free time that I started watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia again, which is so good. So good. Especially, I just saw the episode where they do some podcasting, and I enjoyed it immensely.
My wife watches that. She went and started watching it without me, and so I hear her laughing hysterically in the other room while she watches it, but I don't want to be spoiled, so I'm waiting to get started on it.
Okay, this is a show you don't have to worry about being spoiled. I mean, it's
I can just
always
jump in the middle and then catch up later.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be confused about 3 egomaniacal or idiots running a bar together.
But I won't know the story arc.
Yeah, this is not one that you have anything to worry about. The only story arc you got to know is that Danny DeVito's not in the first season. Outside of that, it doesn't matter what order you're going to watch it in. Easily one of the funniest shows on television right now.
All right, so where are you in The Wire? I know you were in the last season when we talked last week. Are you almost done?
4 episodes left, and it's amazing to watch the machinations happening where and again, a little bit of a spoiler, some of the cops are trying to engineer some interest from the media on a particular story that may or may not be exactly what they present it as, because they're trying to get their budgets padded, and it's fascinating. And what I love about The Wire is that I believe it. I believe that just about everything I see in The Wire is possible because they all seem like real people.
Now, as you are barreling towards the end here,
Yes.
Have you? By the way, at this point, when I was going through the Wire experiment this summer for me, I had the iPad on my lap the entire time with the map of Baltimore up on Google Maps, and was just every time they went somewhere, I was like, okay, he's over there. Okay, he's over there, and it's consistent. It's not Did
you full on like open up Street View and take a look around and see?
Oh yeah, look at the corners.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Were they actually drug dealers on the corners there?
There were not. Obviously, they saw the Google Street View camera coming and hightailed it away. Yeah, there were a few people walking along in their hoodies and stuff. So it definitely looked like the way they make it look in The Wire, but it wasn't 3 or 4 kids hanging out on the corner, shaking their fingers or talking to people. And they weren't walking up to the Google Street View car.
Yeah,
just see what they ordered.
WMDs. Got the red tops.
Got them WMDs.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward. Some of the stuff on my list of things to experience. I don't know. Like what should I do? Because now I'm finally here at the buffet. It's all I can eat, and it's whatever I want. What should I be watching right now?
I've been thinking you should try Mad Men again.
I will continue Mad Men because that's one I can watch. Pick
it back up.
Caught up on that.
Currently on television, the program that I am enjoying the most is, surprisingly to me, Stargate Universe.
See, and you said this. You were on the bandwagon that said how terrible it was.
It was. I had it on my top 5 worst sci-fi shows not 5 months ago. But this new season, they have really turned it around. They have stepped it up. They're writing more interesting stories. They're writing better stories. Is it the best sci-fi I've ever seen? No, it's not the best. But it is definitely the thing I look forward to watching every week. I also enjoy Sanctuary, but that's not for everyone. That show's a little bit more niche-y.
So a bunch of people in the chat room are telling me to watch Rubicon, but again, this is one of those things I told you before. I don't know if it was in the beta or in the last
I haven't
episode.
watched Rubicon yet either.
Well, I mean, it's been canceled now.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if I want to invest myself. I still haven't finished. I got halfway through the first season of Deadwood and loved it. And then halfway through, they canceled it in the second season. And I was just like, I felt like my stock crashed. And I was like, well, what's the point? It's just canceled.
Do you watch Fringe?
No, but that is one
that's worth. You can skip around the first season, especially the first half of the first season, and really it doesn't pick up to that second half, and the second season is where it really gets going.
You had mentioned I should watch Sherlock as well, right?
Yes, I have the DVD, in fact, and it's only 3 episodes, so it's not going to take you any time, and they are fantastic.
All right. Well, what are you watching, and what should you be watching?
What am I not watching? I'm watching The Event, which I'm so close to stopping watching it, but they're always stringing me along. It's an interesting premise, not so well done, kind of like Heroes was in the later days, when it's like, oh, I still like the premise, and it's like, if you were just a little better, this would be an amazing show. I'm watching. Top Chef is now year round. Top Chef Just Desserts is finishing up, and then Top Chef All Stars is going to happen.
Food porn. That's so cute.
I like food. What's wrong with that? Stargate Universe, Sanctuary, Fringe, The Office, 30 Rock, all on the docket. Boardwalk Empire. I got bored and walked away from the Empire.
Wow.
I might pick it back up, but right now it's in a holding pattern for me. Being Human will be coming to Sci-Fi, the American version, the American take on the British version. It's a show about a ghost, a vampire, and a werewolf who live together.
Of course it is. That makes perfect sense.
But the British version is much more gritty than that. Like they live in a kind of a crappy apartment in a kind of an industrial town in England. They're not in London, and they're all just trying to get by without having to deal with the problems that their differences impose upon them. Whereas the sci-fi one looks a little cartoonish.
Well, let's do this. One thing I'd like to propose is just as we did the The Wire experiment, where we took a show that we knew we were supposed to like and watched it from scratch, maybe this time we'll do like a show exchange thing, where each of us will pick one show and make the other one watch the first season of it.
All right.
And see how we take it.
Yeah. Let's think about that.
Before we move past the tube tops, we got to talk Walking Dead.
Absolutely.
Tell me you watched this last episode.
Yes. Watched it on Sunday night after you left my house.
Oh, my gosh. It's phenomenal, and that opening scene with Michael Rooker as Merle Dixon stole the show for me. It was so phenomenal.
Also, without giving a spoiler, anyone who has seen the comic book will know what this reference is. The way that episode ends means that he has to become the governor, right?
Yes. Well, that was, I didn't see anything, but I got a text message from Justin Robert Young saying $20 says he's the governor. $20.
You haven't seen anything in what way?
I hadn't seen the episode, so I didn't know what it was in reference to.
But now that you've seen the episode.
But he was watching the episode.
And
I have watched it now, and now I know why.
Yeah.
But yes.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it now, in my mind.
It would change things considerably if you've read the comic book, because remember, part of what made the governor a compelling character in the comic book was this somebody who was clearly a good leader, who knew how to provide what his people wanted, who had this deep affection for his daughter, who has a situation going on, if you remember it. But it's like those are all elements that would have to be totally changed if Merle Dixon was going to be the governor. But we'll see about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But regardless, if you dig Michael Rooker, and I do want to say one other thing about the show, but Michael Rooker, I should point out, tonight is going to be on NSFW show. He's going to be joining us for a brand new segment that we are very, very excited about. So you can see Michael Rooker. But here's one thing I'm really shocked by, is how much better the movie/TV version of The Walking Dead is at making Shane a sympathetic character and portraying the complication of the love triangle going on. Like in the comic, you see everything from Rick's perspective, and it's not until later that things start to break down. But I love how agonized I am, where I'm on one side and then I'm on the other side and back and forth. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, yeah, I thought it was a mistake how they showed that relationship early when I saw it in the first episode. But now, when Rick showed up, you had, instead of this joy that you felt in the comic book, it's a punch in the gut.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, crap. You know what's going on. You know what's going down. You know this is bad news, even though it's good news. And yeah, Carl's going to be real excited. She's got mixed emotions. And yet, when she has that scene with Shane where she basically tells him off, I was like, yes, it makes more sense.
Well, and also what's great, though, is you watch her and you're just like, you're such a bitch. Why are you talking that way to Shane? You're being so rude to him. And then there's the total reversal when she's like, well, you told me he was dead. And you're like, oh, and it's like, it's agonizing. It's agonizing. Oh, so excited about how it's moving forward.
Now I get what they're doing with the parallels here, because they're going to go back into the city, and they in the comic book they go back in the city with Glenn for supplies, but this time they're going back to check on Merle, and I kind of wish they hadn't blown the bit where they cover themselves with the stinky zombie meat on the way out, because they do it on the way back in, and it adds something to that. But that's all right.
And it's there's going to be a lot of reshuffling of content, and there's no way as a comic book fan that you can quite get everything that you want to have appear. But on balance, I'm super happy. In fact, tell me if you notice this as well. There's a lot of things that happen just in the last 20 episodes where there are nods to those moments, like when Shane goes nuts beating on the wife beater. That seemed like it was a nod to something that happened just like 8 issues ago in the comic book. Did you notice it?
Yeah. No, I did think about that. It was sort of an echo in reverse time from where they are currently in the comic book, and that character is there. She's a lot more sympathetic now in the television show than she was in the book. But again, three episodes in, this television show is a must-see. We have minorly spoiled a couple things for people if they haven't seen it yet.
None of these words mean anything to you. You probably
and even if they do, we haven't spoiled the biggest things. Because really this is one of those television shows, as cliche as it is to say, where you have to sit and experience it.
Yes,
we could tell you. To me, I said this about the movie Inception too, but we could tell you every single thing that happened in the episode, and it really wouldn't spoil it. You'd feel spoiled going in, but after you watched it, you'd be like, "Oh, but that was so different watching it actually happen." It's all about experiencing the show because it's so well done. It really brings you in to that universe.
It never feels like a TV show. From beginning to end, it feels like a movie event, which is very difficult to do. And I'm going to say it does it better than Mad Men. It does it better than Breaking Bad. It does it better than any of the other AMC offerings. And I'm glad that they've already been offered a second season. I think this is great news for anybody who loves good storytelling.
You know what doesn't feel like it's real life, even though it is?
What?
The subject of our videos in Cipro.
We're doing something a little bit different for this Cipro. Normally, we have a specific video or a couple of videos that we want to talk about, but holy cow, has the last 48 hours not been a very strange whirlwind for viral videos on the internet? It's something that out of nowhere has exploded and shown up on news channels. It's showing up on the Drudge reports. It's this sudden explosion of people. I guess what would you call them? Like fed up with the TSA videos or videos of?
Well, yeah. There's this. What happened, in short, is they put in these X-ray machines, these backscatter X-ray machines in just around 40 airports. And there's a lot of controversy over the fact of what they can see because they see through clothing, whether they keep the images or not. The fact that it was leaked that the new guidelines for a pat down if you refuse to go through the X-ray machine involve feeling up the thigh until you meet resistance, and folks saying like, "Wait a minute, you can't be touching me there. That's not okay."
Right.
And so, even though most Americans surveyed in a Gallup poll would go through the X-ray machine just fine and don't have a problem with this, there is a growing number of very frustrated people who say this is not right. And they've called for a day, the day before Thanksgiving, to opt out of going through the scanner.
That's right. And there's a number of websites out there, National Opt-Out Day. There's, flywithdignity.org, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. But there's a number of them that advocate people essentially just asserting your rights. You're not asking them to do anything inappropriate or illegal. What you're doing is you're saying, look, you have the right to opt out of the X-ray backscatter machines, in which case you get a full pat down. And so go ahead on for one day, exercise your right and try it on for size and see how it feels for you. And it's amazing to me. Stuff like this happens. We see these groundswells, these grassroots movements appear out of nowhere, and it may eventually come out that this is all being orchestrated by some firm. But at the moment, this looks like a genuinely spontaneous uprising of people making all these videos saying that we don't like the way we're made to feel when we go to get on a plane, right?
Yeah, they're showing their kids being groped by TSA and then yelling, "Stop touching me," and crying. They're showing videos of a guy in San Diego refusing the pat down and being told that he had to submit to the pat down, and then him insisting he could leave, and now he's being sued by the TSA. And people are starting to make a point that this is not necessary. Even the pilots union has advised their pilots not to go through the backscatter X-ray machine, because they're exposed to a lot more radiation than we are when they're flying.
Yes.
So it's like, why add one more thing? So we've got songs out there. We've got like videos of things that have actually happened. It is dominating the viral scene, is it not?
And there's two more things that just happened. One of which Penn Jillette, outspoken libertarian, and half of the duo Penn and Teller recently got in, I wouldn't say an altercation, but I would say got in a conflict where he accused the TSA of assaulting him because he didn't give permission to be touched in that area and wanted to assert his rights. We'll see how that plays out. But then also right here on the Twit Network, as you know, on Sunday I was on This Week in Tech with Leo Laporte, and Owen J.J. Stone, a.k.a. Odocta, spent like 3 minutes talking about his experience. And I guess Owen was the first to detail what are they calling, like the super inspection or something, where they actually put your hands down the pants. And before we know it, it's now, as of this moment when we're recording this, that clip is being played on an article that's the #1 item on drudgereport.com. So it's, again, all of this is a total surprise to us. And as people who like to keep up to date with what's going on in the viral scene, certainly I thought it was newsworthy and worth checking out.
Yeah, a website called prisonplanet.com actually clipped out something from that episode and put it up on YouTube of Odocta describing the hands down the pants part of the search. But
down the pants. That sounds like the next viral song.
Hands on the pants, hands down the pants.
Hands
like
down
a
the
fool
pants.
with your hands down my pants.
Well, it's interesting because it's great because it's an interesting bubbling up of a whole bunch of people talking about this, and there's kind of a deadline in that this National Opt-Out Day is for next Wednesday. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not this sticks around as a story. Because if you ask me, all of the news is essentially reality television programming. And every time they have a new news story, what they're essentially doing is they're testing a pilot. And if people like the pilot, if the pilot tests well, if this girl who's missing is cute enough and we're all interested in her story, then they pick it up for a full season where we'll hear about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it seems like right now the mass media is sort of piloting this TSA story, and it'll be interesting to see if it lasts beyond the 24th with the opt-out day.
All right, that's it for episode 2 of Frame Rate. Well done again, my friend.
Hey, man, it worked out great. We didn't even have to, everything worked, and we didn't even have to really engage our brains at all. It was amazing.
Not once. You can engage your brain, though, by emailing us, framerateshow@gmail.com. We didn't get to one this time, but we promise we will try to get to emails from the folks in the show, and we do read them all.
That's right. And make sure to tell your friends about Frame Rate. If you dig videos, whether it be viral videos, television, or movies, we'd like to talk about all of them. We want to hear about from you. So make sure to let us know what you'd like to see. Tell your friends about it because apparently we're new and noteworthy right now on iTunes.
Woo, thank you, iTunes.